What's up, Chargers fans? I just wrapped up the first padded practice of Chargers camp today, and it was awesome. It was awesome to see them out there in pads and looking like they should be. And I got to just start off by saying the Chargers rookies absolutely dominated today. And I'm not talking about one, I'm not talking about two, I'm not even talking about three. I really think that guys at different spots throughout the draft absolutely killed it today. So let's talk about the guy most we're excited about when pads came on, and that's Rashawn Slater. Now, by all accounts, in the individual drills, he was 4 for 4 going against guys like Bosa or Nwosu. He won all of his reps. But again, that's one-on-one. So how does he look on an 11 on 11s? That's what's kind of what I was more interested in. And it was a pretty solid day overall. There's a portion that was full pads, another portion that he didn't have pads. So it's kind of hard to gauge what he was like without the pads in the end of practice. But during the time that he had pads, I believe there was only two sort of losses on the day. One was a rep where Nwosu beat him in the run game, and that was a clear beat. Nwosu went for his left shoulder and just split him in half and beat him in the run game, and that's okay. Nwosu is a pretty good edge rusher, right? And then Fackrell sort of beat him with a dip and rip on the outside on one of the pass rush reps. But like how much it would have mattered, I'm not quite sure, because yeah, he beat him outside sort of, but you could maybe make a case for Slater kind of washing him out, even though he was beaten. He kind of let Fackrell go to the outside because Herbert stepped up, and so there was no danger for Herbert there. So is it a win? Is it a loss? It's kind of a wash, honestly. But if I had to call it something, I guess I'd call it a loss for Slater. But otherwise, he looked really, really good, and the use of pads was very helpful for Slater, and it's very evident in all of his reps. It's just a different kind of thing. And instead of just kind of, padding and blocking, now he's got something. Now he can, adjust and do whatever he needs to, as he should. He is a technician. And so the pads are kind of an important thing. Legally, that is. There's no holding. There wasn't anything like that. So he looked really, really good overall. There was one play against Nwosu. So after Nwosu beat him on the run game rep, they had a pass rush rep next. And by the way, Slater never went against Bosa in 11 on 11, so can't give you an update there. But in that pass rush rep, Slater did win his battle against Nwosu. And about the time when the whistle was blowing, Slater just turned and shoved Nwosu as hard as he could, trying to throw him to the ground. Like the play was over, but Slater's like, "Oh, you beat me on that last rep, huh? No. I'm not going to let you do that again." And he shoved Nwosu, and Nwosu was like running and stumbling because I don't think he expected Slater to do that. So that was really cool to see that streak. So, overall, I give it like an A- for Slater on the day. A couple of things he was doing really well too was just picking up whatever the defense was trying to do, because he originally, like Nwosu would start line up across him, and then they would have Justin Jones loop around, or they'd have even Braden Fajoko loop around, and Slater had no problem picking it up for him. And they did work on this in practice. The offensive lineman did do a really good job earlier in kind of the position drills, working on communication and understanding responsibilities as things are changing. So when Slater went to 11 on 11s, it was no problem for him. He picked up both defensive tackles. It was Justin Jones and Braden Fajoko in the two that I saw. And there are probably some more in there too. But for what I saw, the communication was great, which is great, because the Chargers certainly lacked that last season. Another standout, Asante Samuel Jr. I know you guys have been waiting to hear some good news about this guy, and here it is. So my understanding is about a third to a half of the first team reps, Asante Samuel Jr. was in there playing slot corner, and he was in there when there were 6 DBs. Right. It wasn't like it was pretty much everyone you expected. There was nothing really new about it, except when there were 6 DBs. And there were a lot of that today. There was quite a bit of that today. They started with that in position drills, and it carried into 7 on 7s, 11 on 11s. There were just plenty of DBs today. It wasn't exactly a linebackers day at all. And Samuel Jr. was the slot corner with the 1s. Then he would stay on the field when the 2s came in, and he would move to outside corner. Not that he was only doing outside the entire time, but that seemed to be kind of how the way it was working. So with the first team slot corner, with the second team outside corner, which is great, because that A, gives him some reps with the 1s and gives him an opportunity to get onto the field, and B, gives him tons of reps working inside, working outside, and that extra education as much as he possibly can in this defense. So now that he's starting to take that next step and move forward, I think it's pretty good. And Chargers fans can breathe a sigh of relief. He did not replace Faison by any means. Faison was still the outside guy in certain situations, if not a lot of the time, because Harris is kind of another slot guy moving around and playing safety. But it's good to see Asante Samuel Jr. finally step onto the field, and he had some really great reps, great reps today. I believe close to 3 pass breakups, if I'm not mistaken. He did allow a reception. Josh Palmer, and we'll talk about him in a second. Josh Palmer did catch a ball on him on a slant, I believe. But what Samuel Jr. was so good at coming out of college was baiting the quarterback, right? I'm going to play a little bit offy, but my instincts and my read and react is so good, and my burst is so good that you're not really even going to anticipate that or expect that. And it worked for him today in practice. There was definitely one pass breakup off of read and react, just playing off just a bit, coming in, getting his hand in, boom. Another play, it was beautiful coverage. He had his hand on the ball. But Jason Moore also had two hands on the ball and brought the ball in. So it was really great rep and coverage. It's not a whole lot more Samuel Jr. could have done, but again, read and react. And then to sort of end practice, if you will, towards the end, he nearly had a pick six because I mean, it was beautiful. He unfortunately dropped it, but he went, full burst, two hands up, would have been a pick six. And that is exactly what you're expecting out of Asante Samuel Jr. So good day for him, playing with some of the ones, a lot of reps with the twos, and then of course getting some pass breakups in there, which is great. Josh Palmer, another rookie that had a really good day today. And it started with just as early as position drills. I got to say this though, Keenan Allen is insane. And I haven't watched him a ton in practice because we kind of expect Keenan Allen to be Keenan Allen. But I watched him in position drills today, and they were just doing, wide receiver footwork drills or whatever. And there was one point where Josh Palmer, I think, had the best ladder drill of anybody else in front of him, right? Beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm like, that's how it should be run. And then Keenan Allen walks up, the music's playing, and Keenan Allen does that same ladder drill faster than Josh Palmer. And the entire time he's dancing like this, but his feet are moving faster than Josh Palmer. And he does the entire drill while dancing to the music like this. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. That's how good Keenan Allen is. He's just having fun, and he's better than everyone else there. But that's not to take away from Josh Palmer, because Josh Palmer, even just from the drills, and you can see it. Watch practice. If you watch the practice, you can just see how good Josh Palmer is, how much he really dedicates himself to being a really good wide receiver. The footwork, the drills, whatever it is, running after the catch, catching every ball with his hands. Everything is so precise. And, we'll see when the games are live, the talent is really there. But as far as preparation and dedication to being the best wide receiver possible, Josh Palmer is it. And today, he had a great day. I don't recall every rep that he had, but obviously he had the rep beating Asante Samuel Jr. on the slant. And then he did have 2 touchdowns today, one in the red zone and one, I think, like 30 yards out from the end zone. So 2 touchdowns for Josh Palmer. How about Trey Mckitty? I didn't see a lot from him, but I do want to point out one notable rep. It is kind of hard for me to follow everybody, so sorry if I don't have everything. But Trey Mckitty, he, when lined up against Derwin James in the slot, made Derwin James stumble on a slant. Like, the route was that good. And, could you say Derwin James kind of slipped? Possibly, I don't know. But how often do you see Derwin James stumble? This guy's covering Keenan Allen on the slot. And Trey Mckitty, unfortunately, dropped the ball on the slant. But he kind of, put Derwin James in some skates there for a bit. So that was really impressive. I did not get to see much of Nick Neiman. Chris Rumpf, I don't think had anything today. I wasn't watching everybody. It's so hard. And they were on the far side of the field. So I'm sitting there with binoculars trying to watch everybody. And it's really tough. So Neiman and Rumpf, couldn't see much of them. Roundtree didn't do much today. I believe he is kind of the RB4, if you will. I don't think he's taken Kelly's spot so far, but I think that'll change. Or if it's going to change, it's going to happen in the preseason, not necessarily in practice. But then Mark Webb, I think that's the guy that might have had the best day, honestly. He did have a pick 6 today. He did have multiple pass breakups. And it was one of those times where I'm thinking, okay, who's this? I had to look at my numbers and look at the roster again to see who was who. Mark Webb had at least 2 pass breakups and a pick 6 today. And I believe it was at different points of the field as well. And that's great, because the thing with Mark Webb for me, if you look at his RAS score, he's not very athletic. But when you do watch, he's somehow in the hip pocket, or he's just, of every receiver, anyone he has to cover, wherever he is, he's always right there. And that's really hard for someone who doesn't really have great athletic traits, which means his coverage awareness is really, really good. And he understands his responsibilities really, really well. And that's why today he had 2 pass breakups and a pick 6. I believe the pick 6, I thought it was Easton Stick. Someone else said it was Chase Daniel. Again, I wasn't really watching who the quarterback was. But that's it. So yeah, Slater, A- day at least. Samuel Jr. had a really solid day. Palmer had a great day. Mckitty had that really good rep. Mark Webb had an outstanding day as well, especially for a 7th round pick, to come in and do as well as he did. So the rookie class is looking absolutely amazing right now. I don't know if it's just because pads came on. I mean, listen, Palmer's looked good all camp. We expected Slater to be good. For them to have different contributors, especially with 1, 2, 3, their first 3 picks, all were standouts, and another day 3 pick stood out. Come on, chef's kiss. So excellent day overall for the rookies. As far as other players go, Austin Proehl is definitely making this roster based on how it is right now. He's a starting kick returner. He's a starting punt returner. And I think he had 4 or 5 targets and 4 receptions, or for 3 or 4 receptions on offense as well. He's not a guy that's working with the ones at all. I don't think he's ever on the field with the ones on offense, but the twos come in, Prohl is in, and they made it a point to get him the ball today. It wasn't just like, go through your progression and find Prohl. No, they made it a point to get him open. I believe it was either swing or screens or something like that. Very quick passes. They just right to him and let him get some yards after the catch, which we kind of thought. Now, what that does mean is that Joe Reed is basically not making the roster, right? I thought Prohl had a shot. I certainly thought Reed would be there to compete with him, but Prohl has just they've basically just given him the job at this point, and there's no real reason not to so far. I'm kind of bummed Joe Reed's not getting that kick return opportunity and at all. And by the way, it is just Austin Prohl and KJ Hill on kick return. That's it. There's nobody else. So I'm kind of bummed that Joe Reed didn't really get a shot to do that. But, if Prohl's their guy, Prohl's their guy. And it's clear based on how he looked in the XFL, very open field, shifty wide receiver. So that's great. And they tried to exploit that today. They wanted to get him, quick screens, quick passes, let him get that yards after the catch. And he got, catch the ball, get another 3 or 4 yards or so. And so that's kind of his role. And I do think he's going to make the team, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7, whatever they do. But he is going to make the team because he has both special teams roles down, and he has a small role and some intention from the coaching staff on offense. As far as the kicking battle goes, I was kind of worried because all I saw was Michael Badgley out there at first taking some kicking reps. When the offensive defense or whatever was going on, or even during breaks, Michael Badgley would take some reps, and no one else was. I will say Badgley's leg looks a lot better. He was hitting no problem from 50 yards out. I believe he didn't even have a 60-yard field goal. And so leg is certainly not the issue. I don't know if that's injury related reasons last season or what, but he looks fine. His leg looked good. Now, can he do that consistently over multiple games when there's guys in his face? Who knows? The other guy who benefited was Tristan Viscano. I didn't see Kessman take a kick, to be completely honest. At the end of practice, they had the special teams units out there, and they had Viscano take something between maybe 6 or 7 kicks from different spots. Start at the 10, go to the 15, go to the 20, and so on. And his last kick of the day was a 52-yard field goal. So they didn't go much further than that, but he was perfect on the day. And I couldn't tell you how straight it was because they're so far away, but the refs went up like this every time. So he was perfect from his 6 or 7 kicks that he had. So, I definitely think it does come down to those 2 guys, and we'll see how it works out in the preseason. I don't believe Badgley got a chance to be with the special teams unit to have those field goals. I think it was just Viscano today. Whether that rotates or not, I'm not quite sure. So, pretty good day overall. I was just honestly just happy to be there. No other real surprises that I can think of. It's a couple of good plays from Drew Tranquil, one from Kaiser White again, who seems to be all over the field. I know Tyron Johnson did not practice today, which I don't really think that changed a whole lot with how the offense looked. I think they just ran more with Guyton probably. But that was about it. But there wasn't a whole lot going on in 11-on-11s today. As far as Herbert and the starting unit went, maybe a series or 2 in the 11-on-11s, but it wasn't a ton. So moving forward, I hope I can see a little bit more of that to get a better understanding of what's going on. But that's it. If I left anything out, I'll try to comment it below. Otherwise, let me know what you guys think. I'm very excited. The rookie did really well today. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.